Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. The first story is called, I Don't Care Who Calls. I have worked for copy shops for a very long time. I worked as lead production in multiple shops. And subsequently, I can make the copiers pretty much dance to any tune I set due to learning their ins and outs. Anyway, for a variety of reasons, mostly I'd moved, I got a job with a competitor that stationed me closer to home in an incredibly busy, paper-oriented banking company. My boss was a rather stubborn, close-minded woman who liked to insult her underlings, of which I was one. When I started, I began streamlining her processes. Most of her time was taken up by physical labor, which the copiers could do automatically. I pointed this out early on, to which she said, "That's the way we've always done it, and I like it this way." There was an implied threat at the end of that. Thankfully, we worked opposite schedules. So while she was there, business as usual, but I was blessedly alone for 6 hours after she and the others left. And work got done while I was alone at work. Turnaround times would drop from 24 hours minimum, sometimes days, to less than 5 hours. The clients learned that if they brought their projects in after my boss left, they'd get them much sooner. All of this leads to the blow-up. I come into the basement shop early in the afternoon, and there are stacks of paper everywhere. Massive collation job. Which the copiers can do automatically, of course. I open my mouth to say as much, but the boss lady screams, "No. Don't touch anything. No touchy." She's a 20-something Italian woman with maturity issues. "Start working on the next job. I don't want you touching this one. The client is going to get this in the time I specified, not 1 second earlier." I don't think she liked the client. Her husband had gotten whiplash looking at the client one time, so there was a bit of jealousy. So I look at the email and start pumping out jobs. All collation, ironically. Really small, really complicated jobs. All done and picked up by the time the boss was packing up to go home. I'm going home. Don't touch anything. This job is off limits. I tell her that I understood and will not touch the job. 5 minutes after she leaves, the client calls. "Is your boss still there?" "No. I have massive edits to that job, it's like a whole new project. She point blank told me not to touch that project. If the project isn't done by morning, I'll lose my job." I know this is hyperbole, but I have a way around what the boss said, so, send it to me as a new project, cancel the old project by email, send only to my boss, not to me, and I'll see what I can do. The client is appropriately appreciative and sends the files over. I set the machines up, and everything starts printing. All I have to do is refill paper and put the automatically collated products into massive binders. Everything is done just before quitting time, and the client is already there with her superior, looking at the process my boss was using, versus just having the machine do it. Why was she doing it this way? I really don't know, but if I had to guess, I'd say her bonus was tied to her profit. This company is paper reliant, so saving on your monthly copy allotment is out. If she does all the collating by hand, each time we touch a sheet of paper, it costs you money. And it is likely not a discounted or included cost in your contract. It probably isn't much each time, but it can add up, especially at this company. The client and her boss thank me for getting everything done so quickly, and I head home. Next day, I get to the copy center, and right off my boss tells me, "Go home. This woman is livid. Go home. Don't come in tomorrow. I don't care who calls, you're suspended." I go home and proceed to go on a massive bender. Because there's no work the next day, I turn off my phone. Prevents angry drunk dialing. While checking my phone, I send a message to the client to tell her I will be out for a couple of days, and to expect a production slowdown, and to pass it along. While I'm out of the world, my boss calls. And calls. And calls a lot more. She leaves messages about coming back in, getting work done, etc. Turns out the client's boss called her boss, the CEO, and told him about the job I'd done. CEO liked the job and wanted to thank me. And the client may have had him check the contract. And an order came from high up. All the bells and whistles I usually have the machines do. Turn time was faster than my boss could manage. I was on the verge of being fired, so I reached out to a friend at a Kinko's I used to work at, about noon on my second day of suspension. They agreed to the same pay rate, and I was hired. I informed my boss and said my goodbyes to the clients and the rest of the ladies. My boss was fired a week later. I heard through the grapevine it was poor human resource management. The clients were unhappy, her boss was mad, and her boss was not happy. At least she got what she deserved. What do you think? Comment down below. The next story is called, Fine, I'll Throw Away All the Pillows. This happened about 8 years ago when I worked for one of the biggest hotels in the United States. I'm talking about 3,200 rooms, and that place is the size of a small city. My position was supervisor of special operations, which means I was the guy they came to when they needed to, say, change 1,000 bed frames for more modern ones, or change 5,000 light bulbs for ones more energy efficient because we are going green, and stuff like that. Now, a hotel this big is divided into 4 buildings, each with their own managers, supervisors, housekeeping and the like. Essentially, it was run like 4 separate hotels. The problem was that each building's managers had an exorbitant amount of power, and they ended up stepping on each other's toes day in and day out. Because of my position, I didn't work directly for any of them but for the director of housekeeping. So whenever one of them tried to get me to take special care of them and their buildings, I could easily refuse. But most of the time, I did whatever they needed to get done if I had time, and because they were mostly nice people and good managers. Enter Douche Canoe. He was the worst manager I have ever encountered in my career. He would go into the checkout rooms and steal tips from the housekeepers, take things left behind by guests instead of reporting them to lost and found, and talk to people like they owed him something, like his word was law. One day we get a VIP guest, one of the owners of the company that owned the hotel. So my boss sends me to check the room he's to check into the next day. So I did. I checked all the furniture, bed frame, mattress, lamps, light bulbs, AC unit, everything I could think of, and when I'm done, I give the good to go. Fast forward a week, the day after VIP checked out, I get called into my boss's office and the conversation goes something like this: the VIP had a complaint about his room. Did I miss something? Not really. It was housekeeping who did. He noticed that one of his pillows was stained. The pillows are in a protective cover inside a pillowcase, so he had to have taken it out of both to notice it was stained. And he requested another one, which was also stained. And you want me to do something about it? I want you to check all the pillows during renovations, and take all the stained ones out of the rooms and send them to laundry and then place them back in the rooms. That's gonna take a couple of days and some overtime, but okay. The hotel was scheduled for renovations about 3 weeks from the date of the VIP pillow incident, where the hotel was supposed to shut down for 2 weeks and outside contractors would come in and do most of the work. During this time, I was supposed to just stand by and help out the contractors with whatever they needed. But because of the pillow incident, I now had something to do. I had my instructions from my boss, and the date rolls by and I and my team get to work. About halfway through the first building, I get a call on the radio from the douche, asking where I was. My boss had had a family emergency and was out of town, leaving the douche in charge of overseeing operations until he got back. I respond with my location and get back to work. About 10 minutes later, the douche enters the room I'm currently working in and the conversation goes like this: you are going to throw away all the stained pillows. Now why would I do that, when I have clear instructions? Your boss isn't here and I'm telling you to throw away all the stained pillows. As soon as he finished the sentence, he turned around and started walking away when I said, but. He then loses it and goes, you are nothing more than a glorified janitor. You will do as you are told. Throw away all the stained pillows and leave the thinking to the people with college degrees. To which I said nothing but okay. After he left, I call my team on a different radio frequency and let them know the new plan, and get a lot of, seriously? And, what the hex? So I tell them, that's what the boss man wants and that's exactly what the boss man will get. Anyways, we get back to work, pulling stained pillows from rooms. Remember, 3,200 of them. So it takes us about 3 days. During this time, we didn't just dump the pillows as we went, we stashed them in a storage room by the dumpster. Turns out most of the pillows were stained, so we're talking about 15,000. After we are done, I emailed the douche, and say, all the stained pillows have been pulled and are on standby. Again, should I just take them to laundry like my boss originally told me to do, or should I proceed to dump them? To which he replied, whatever, just throw them away already as I told you to. So my team and I proceed to ask around the staff and gave a bunch of them away before filling 4 dumpsters with nothing but pillows. Days go by and I'm just helping out the contractors when I get an email from the douche saying, why aren't there pillows in the rooms yet? It was your responsibility. To which I replied, we don't have enough pillows for all the rooms, even with the stash. The stash was a storage room we kept full of new pillows, for whenever they broke, were bled on, or had too many people requesting extra pillows at the same time. But it was only like 500 give or take. We don't even have enough for even one building. He replied, what do you mean, we don't have enough? How many pillows did you throw away? My response, you told me to throw away all the stained ones, so I did. About 15,000. To which he replied, 15,000? How could you be such an imbecile? Now, what are we supposed to do? We can't delay the reopening. My response, I'm just a glorified janitor and can only follow orders. I'll leave the thinking to the people with college degrees. He then proceeds to call my boss on his personal phone, who was out of town attending his father's funeral, and belittle me, say how incompetent I am and how I threw away all the pillows I was supposed to have washed and put back in the rooms. So I get a text from him that just said, "Douche told me what you did. We'll talk when I get back in 2 days." During those 2 days, I compiled a folder with the email thread with the pillow conversation, and since I don't have access to the security mainframe, went to my buddy, who is the security manager, and checked the cameras. I found the footage of him telling me that I'm a glorified janitor and to leave the thinking to the college graduates. There are no cameras in the rooms, but the hallway camera caught the audio. The 2 days went by, and as soon as I came in the next morning and pick up my radio, I get a call from my boss to meet him in his office. So I head there with my folder and my footage in hand. When I walked in, he was sitting in his desk, with the douche standing next to him, and the conversation went like this: "Take a seat." So I take a seat. "Would you care to explain this situation you have put us in?" "No problem." I pulled out my folder, opened it, put it on his desk and push it towards him. He spends a couple of minutes reading it, including the transcription from the security footage, and when I can tell he's done reading, I said, "They wouldn't let me take a copy of the security footage as per policy, but you can talk to the security manager and he can show it to you." He then looks at the douche with raised eyebrows, looks back at me and says, "Would you excuse us for a moment?" I just nod, get up and walk out. About 30 minutes later, the douche comes out with the biggest puppy who peed on the carpet and got hit with a rolled-up newspaper face I've ever seen. My boss signals me to come in again and says he has decided to take some personal time indefinitely. Carry on with your day. And that's the story of how a manager tried to get me fired because of his stupidity, and it didn't work. The last story is called, "If You Don't Like It, Then Leave." I worked as a housekeeper at a small local hotel. In the beginning, when I started about 3 years ago, things were pretty peachy. I got above minimum wage and worked in an environment with a more relaxed working pace. We had more time than your average hotel to clean rooms, and it showed in customer satisfaction. We had stellar reviews, with customers raving about how there wasn't a speck of dust anywhere, how everything from the lampshades to the bathroom drain was always scrubbed squeaky clean. I loved my job and took pride in it. And when we had extra time, which happened from time to time, we would do some deeper cleaning, like scrubbing all the walls inch by inch, disinfecting the whole bathroom, cleaning the blinds, etc. Even though we all had some extra time, we used it to make sure the rooms were always up to a very high standard. As a result of this, we got a reputation of being an affordable but very clean hotel, so our popularity spiked. Even before we got so popular, our boss made a pretty nice amount of money. We don't have a reception, we're self-service. You just get a passcode for your room via text message. So he saved money with that. He drives an expensive car and seems very well off. We were never struggling financially. Then things started changing. We're a very close-knitted team of cleaners, who have been in the house for years. A couple of us left at the end of last year, and we started expecting newcomers to our team. They never came. Our boss claimed that it's hard to find workers for this kind of job. We never had anyone interviewed, and I never saw ads anywhere that were hiring, so I'm not sure he was even planning on replacing them. So our work pace got tighter. We managed somehow, but there was no longer time for thorough cleaning. Then, the boss opened a restaurant, so that the guests could have breakfast. Cleaning it daily got added to our workload. And that place is massive, it takes at least 90 minutes to clean daily. At the same time, he also opened a separate Airbnb-style apartment, for larger groups who wanted to reside together. Cleaning that fell on us as well. So suddenly, we were down to 5 people and shoved 2 massive new responsibilities. We asked our boss again to hire more people, but he said no and that we've been having it too easy beforehand. He also refused to add another hour or 2 to our daily working hours. We have 6 hours and everything needs to be done at 3 p.m. sharp because that's when the new passcodes start working. Understandably, we were stressed out. There was suddenly far too much to do, and our boss also simultaneously expected that we would keep up our usual cleaning standard. But when our time per room plummets from 45 to 25 minutes tops, obviously we're not able to clean everything the way we did before. We would get yelled at when we got bad feedback because there wasn't enough time to clean thoroughly enough. Customers who came in after our clean rooms were disappointed and took their business elsewhere. Also, my coworkers started calling in sick because they were burned out. It was a mess, but our boss maintained the outlook that, if he just pushed a massive amount of work on us, we'd somehow magically find an extra pair of hands and get everything done 100%. Last week, we had a meeting with my coworkers. We discussed the current situation, and to my surprise, everyone was considering quitting. Out of loyalty to our longtime employer, the 5 of us agreed to have a meeting with our boss and try to persuade him to hire more staff to bring the hotel back to its earlier standard. A couple of days later, we had the said meeting. Our boss was still in denial and said that we just need to up our pace and do things faster. He cited that most hotels give housekeepers about 20 minutes to do everything. We pointed out that it's true, but in that case, he can't expect us to clean better than those hotels. He scoffed and told us, if you don't like working here, then leave. That was all we needed to hear. That night, we had another meeting amongst us cleaners. We checked our contracts and realized there was no agreed on notice for resignation, as we're at will. So, we were all going to take his advice. This morning, at 9 a.m. sharp, the 5 of us paid our boss a visit. The look on his face when we simultaneously slammed down our resignation letters and marched out, leaving no one to clean the whole hotel today, will warm my heart for the rest of my days. He was absolutely stunned. He tried to call us to talk things over. But no, we just did what you told us to. Have fun replacing what was a motivated, loyal and dedicated team of cleaners who made your business bloom. I hope they get a new job soon after this. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.